Hello everyone, I am Tuan Luong and I am a member of Group 12. After Nghi Lam's presentation about the rational model of decisions, now I am going to introduce and explain for you three other important concepts of our lecture today. They are individual differences, organizational constraint, and the ethics in decision making. On my screen, it is my email address so that you can send your questions about my presentation, and please don't hesitate to ask. I will give you the best answer as soon as possible. And now we begin with the first sections. It is the individual differences. I will divide it into four main factors illustrated by these 5 characters. So what these characters stand for? The first one, P, is stand for personality. MA is stand for mental ability. G stand for gender, and the last one, C, is cultures. So we have questions. Do you ever think about what makes us become the unique individual in the universe, that there are no one exactly the same like us? The answer is personality. Yeah, we're different because we have different personality. So in the organizational behavior study, we will discuss 2 main concepts: the conscientiousness and the self-esteem. Firstly, the specific phases of conscientiousness, particularly the achievement striving and the dutifulness. It may affect the escalation of commitment. I'm going to divide 2 types of people. The first one is the achievement seeking people, and they are the kind of people that hate or fail. They hate failure, so they are trying to minimize the mistake and the goal is not conduct any mistake at their work, so they escalate their commitment, perhaps because they need to justify their actions. Besides that, they also are more susceptible to hindsight bias. The second type of people I want to introduce to you is the dutiful people. They are kind of people that we are willing to do what they see as best for their organization, so they don't need to escalate their commitment. There is no evidence that prove that the dutiful people are immune to the susceptible to the hindsight bias. The second, the self-esteem, is a self-perception of being good enough. This is a rather stable trait. People with high self-esteem are strongly motivated to maintain it, and so they use the self-serving bias to preserve it. They usually blame other people for their failure. However, when the success comes, they get the credit for them. So we have finished the personality factor. Now we are moving on to another factor. It is the gender. The psychologist spends decades decades to find out the answer for these questions. Who make better decision, men or women? The answer is it depends on the stressful degree of that situation. It can be said that when the situation doesn't have the stress, so the men usually deliver the right to decide for the woman as a general actions. For example, you usually see that your father, when your family want to buy something, your mother is the one decide what to buy, no, not your father. But in the stressful situation, the men, they seem to be egocentric, so they mix many risk decision, while the woman, they are sensitive, they are empathetic, and they always carefully consider before making the decisions. It is called the rumination. Another thing we need to know that the gender differences seems to lessen with age. What does it mean? It means that the difference in the gender is bigger at the teenager. However, it is smaller at the elderly people, especially the one who is after 65 years old, because the elderly people, the men, both men and women, they ruminate the least. Now we move on to the mental ability. In this about this factor, we should say that the smart people, they are more likely to process the information quickly, solve the problem accurately, and of course they learn faster than the normal people. However, it doesn't mean that they can avoid all the decision errors. Sometimes they still make mistake. So why? Because although they are smart, they are not immune from the overconfidence or the arrogance they may have, because of the many compliments on them. And beside that, being smart doesn't alert you to the possibility that you are too confident or emotional defensive. However, it's not that the intelligence never matters. Once the intelligent people, they are warned about the decision errors, and they will learn more quickly to avoid making the mistakes. Now the fourth factor is the cultural differences. We always should consider the cultural background of the decision maker, because it has the significantly influence on the selection of the problems, and the depth of the analysis, the logically thinking, and leading them to the decision. Let's take an example about 4 types of managers come from 4 different countries: Russia, USA, Australia, and Germany. The Russian manager, they usually decisions are rarely considered carefully. They make many decisions based on their emotions and moods. However, in contrast, the United States manager, they base on their decision is based on a sampling of information coming from various sources, but within a specified timeline. An Australian manager take on an autocratic decision-making style. However, the Germany, they are famous for their rationality. On top, the German always perform that. They are very rational, think carefully before making decisions, and always think logically too. They rely on their status in an organization's hierarchy to guide decision making. The culture differ in time orientation, the value they place on rationality. They believe in the ability of people to solve the problem and their preference for collective decision making. Firstly, we can say that the difference in the time oriented help us to understand, for instance, the Vietnamese manager, why they make the decision more slower and more deliberate pace than their USA manager. Secondly, with rationally is value in somewhere. It does in a particular place doesn't mean that they will work in they will work in another place. For example, the rationality is value in North America. That's not however, that's not true at Iran, because at Iran, where rationality is not a paramount to other factors, efforts to appear rational are not necessary. Thus, some culture they emphasize solving problems, while others focus on the accepting situation as they are and then they ignore it. Let's take an example for this. Is the rap culture in India. We know that rap is bad. All over the world, they are much against it. They condemned it. But in India, because of the culture, boy is better than girl. So the rap culture here is that it's not a very important in their society. Usually when a rap case occurs, as they said, it's because of two people, not only the guys but also the girls still responsible, because as they said, a clap just can be made by two hands, not one. So they accept it and then they ignore it. Hope this example can make you understand more. Okay, we have finished our discussion about the individual differences impact on our decision making. Now we are moving on to the organizational constraint. We also make a big important influence. In generally, the organization can constrain decision maker, creating the deviations from the rational model. And for instance, the manager shapes decisions so that to reflect the organization's performance, evaluations, and the reward system, and to comply with the formal regulations. The purpose is to meet the organizationally imposed time constraints. Besides that, the precedents can also limit our decisions. There are five main constraints I like to tell you. The first one is the performance evaluation system. It is also called the performance appraisals or performance assessment, which is a systematic way to examine how well an employee is performing on his or her work. There are 4 reasons why a systematic performance evaluation system should be implemented. Firstly, is because the evaluations process should encourage positive performance and behavior. Secondly, it is a way to satisfy employee curiosity as to how well they are performing in their job. It can also be used as a tool to develop the employees. Lastly, it can provide us a basis for pay rise, promotions, rewards, and legal discipline, legal actions. The second one is the system imposed time constraint. We all know that the time is very important, right? Exceptionally, it is much more important when time can affect the decision, the whole system. For example, the deadlines. Let's take an example. A financial report have to be done on the Monday and put on the executive desk. However, and of course there no execute or lateness. Imagine what will happen if there is a delay in that report. That will lead to the delay in the whole development of a new product, because on the decision comes after the revision of that report and you are late. The third system is the historical precedents. Choice made today are largely a result of the choice made over the years. The lesson we learned in the past affect our decision for the future. And if you fail in the past because of a wrong decisions, you will consider it hundreds times again when the same situation happens to you. The fourth is the formal regulations. Following the statement that the job doesn't come with the freedom of choice. This is because all the decisions of the employees of the manager are limited by the created rule and policies. The last one is the reward system. The reward system influences the decision maker by making them thinking, consider which choice will give me more profit, give me more money. Therefore, if the risk aversions are rewarded by the organizations, managers appear to make the concern. After five constraints in organization, now we will discuss the ethics in decision making. I'm going to divide the content into 5 categories. The first one is the utilitarianism. The second is the right. Thirdly, the justice, and lastly is lying. So what is the utilitarianism? It is the process making decisions solely on the basis of their outcome, ideally to provide the greatest good for the greatest number. This will dominate the business decisions making and is consistent with goals such as the efficiency, productivity, and high profits. However, it doesn't mean that the utilitarianism is always objective. There is an example can indicate that the effectivity of the utilitarianism is influenced in ways we don't realize. Let's consider a moral dilemma example. Let's say The weight of a 5 people bends a footbridge, so it is low to some train tracks. A train is about to hit the bridge. The choice is to let all the 5 people perish, or you can push the heavy man off the bridge in order to save the 4 people and the 4 left people. And after the survey, we got the result here is that in United States, South Korea, France, and Israel, 20% of the respondents choose to push the man off the bridge to save that for left people. However, that statistic in the Spain is just 18% and in the North Korea is 0%. 0%, yeah. This might speak to the cultural utilitarianism in values. It appears that the event overview of what we consider is pragmatic is changeable due to the cultural background of us. So another ethical criterion is to make the decision consistent with the fundamental liberties and the privilege as set forth in the document in many countries such as Vietnam, USA, England, etc. An emphasis on rights in the decision making is that it means protecting and respecting the basic rights of individuals, such as the right to free speech, right of the privacy, and the due process. This criterion is to protect the whistleblowers when they review an organization's unethical practice to the press or the government agencies using their right of the free speech. A third criterion is to impose and to enforce rules fairly and impartially to ensure justice or an equitable distribution of benefit and cost. Justice perspective sometimes used to justify the paying of people the same wage for a given job, no matter of the performance differences. Now we move on to the last topic we will discuss today is about the lying. It's a very interesting topic. Lying, we lie because it is difficult to detect. Sometimes we lie consciously or unconsciously. We lie to the people, or sometimes we even lie ourselves. Lying is deadly to the decision making because you provide the wrong information. You just untruth to the people. So you cause a misunderstanding. Therefore, people can make a good decision based on lying. The people who lie give the false motive for their behavior, and therefore people should work with our natural and the most sincere tendency to build up the environment that doesn't conduct the lying work. Now it's come to the end of my presentation. Next, my partner will discuss the last part of our lecture. Thank you for listening.
Hello everyone, my name is Thanh Tuyen, and I also insert my ID and my email so that you can contact me if you have any questions. And to continue with Tuan Luong part, we will learn more about the final part of the presentation, the creativity and the 3-stage model of creativity. The first one, we have to learn more about what is creativity. And the creativity is the ability that helps you to produce the novelty and the useful idea. For example, when you do the math problems and your teacher teach you to do that math problem by this solution, but you think that the solution is somehow too long, so you come up with something shorter, and this shorter solution is somehow we call the creative solution. Yeah, that's it. So the creativity, actually they have three-stage model of creativity. Then the first one will be the course of creative behavior. The central one will be the creative behaviors, and the third one will be the result, the outcomes of creative behavior. And first we will start with the course of creative behavior. And as you can see in the slide that creative behaviors, we have two main parts. The first one will be the creative potentials, with something connected to your intelligence, your knowledge, or personality. And the second one will be the creative environment. This is something surrounding you that push you to have a creativity. The first one we will talk about the creative potentials. Actually, we can see in the slide that the first one will be intelligence, the second one will be personality, the third one will be expertise, and the fourth one, also the final one, is the annex. The first one, intelligence. Because intelligence, it allows you to think something logically. And when you do the math problem, for example, and your teacher teach you something, but teach you how to do it math problem is by this solution, but you think that you can think of a more logical and more structured solution, so you can use your brains to think of that. So this is how intelligence and creativity connected. The second one will be the personality. For example, you have something in your characteristics that will help you to think of something creative. For example, if you have a high level of disagreeableness in the big five, which means that you seem to disagree all of the things around you, and when your teacher teach you the solution for this problem, but you think that you're not satisfied with this problem, so with the solution, so you have to come with something new to prove that your teacher this kind of problems have more than one solution or something like that. And this is somehow help you to have the creative ideas. Yeah, and the third one will be the expertise. Expertise is something related to the intelligence, but it's different. Expertise is the foundation of the knowledge and the experience you have go through. It's because you have and if you have the good foundations of expertise, you can have a good intelligence. For example, when you do the math problems, and because you have do the types of problems before, and you have experienced a bunch of solutions, so you know how to combine them together to make a perfect, another different solution from them. And this is also called the creativity. And the last one, the annex, is also the very controversial one. For example, when you are in a class and there were two typical main person, the first one will be the honest person in the test. The second one will be the cheating one. And when you are doing the test, and the honest person, all they do will be study for exam, and then you use all their study to write down on the test. But to the cheating one, you don't want to study, so they want to do something that they don't need to study, but they can do the test, so they can write down on the hands, write down the table, or make some cheating ways so that they could complete the test without studying. And this ways is also pushing your creative minds. So next we will learn about the creative environment. It's somewhere that have your creative potential to be realized, to be translated into the creative behavior. And in this slide, you can see that we have 5 parts of the creative environment. The first one will be intrinsic motivation. Something just like the reward. For example, when you do the math problems and your teacher told you that if you got another different solution for this problem, you can get the 10 marks, and this 10 mark will be the motivation, the intrinsic motivation for you to come up with another creative solution. The second one will be the resources. Resources something just like the appetite. Because you have resources, you can have more knowledge, information, so that you can come up with the more creative ideas to deal with that problems. The third one will be the cultures. For example, cultures is also related to the resources. For example, because each culture provides you somehow different piece of knowledge, and if you have experience, the more cultures, the knowledge you have to deal with that problems. The fourth one will be the leadership. Leadership is something just like your teacher. If your teacher, he or she allow you to deal with the problems by different solution, for example, which means that if you come up with a very creative solution for this problem, but your teacher told you that you are not allowed to do this problem by this solution, you have to do this problem by my solution. They don't allow you to come up with many other solution ideas, so this is prevent you from being creativity. And the 5th one will be the diverse team. For example, it somehow just look like the culture, but it's somehow different. For example, diverse team will be when you are in the class, when you are someone good at math, and your friend will be someone good at art, and your friends will be someone good at language or something. And if you are in that team, you will have the ability to experience many knowledge, and you can gather a lot of resources. And this is somehow also have you to have a more. So we just have finished the first stage of the 3-stage model of creativity. So now we come to the second one, the creative behavior, and it occurs in 4 steps. The first one will be the problem formulation, which means that you can identify your problem, what is your real problem is, and the opportunity that you can develop some possible solutions. The second one will be the information gathering, which means that if you want to do some problems, you have to have knowledge about it. So you have to seek as many knowledge and information as possible to identify many innovations opportunity. The third one will be the idea generation, which means that based on the knowledge and information that you have used, you have to develop many solutions, many possible solutions, as many as possible also. And the fourth one will be the idea of evaluation, which means that based on the possible solution you have to come up with, you have to evaluate them, and you list down something, you decided which one will be the best one to apply. So to help you guys can visualize the 4 steps of creative behavior, I will give you an example to visualize. There are 4 pictures on the slide. In the first one, you can see that a plastic straw is stuck on the nose of a turtle. And this picture helps you to identify the problem is that people are overusing the plastic, and which make the environment to be destroyed. And yeah, the second will be the picture of environment people who are have their love to the environment, and they want to protect the environment. So they get it together to share all of the knowledge on the information they have just gather, and they share it to have a greater knowledge to learn about the environment, existing environment, and how to deal with that, for example. And this is somehow very essential for the second step, information gathering. The third step, that the picture you can see that the third step is idea generation, and which means you can develop many possible solutions. And in this picture, you can see that we have two possible solutions, which is the first one, you can distribute your garbage into 4 kinds of garbage so that you could reuse them or recycle them or just throw them away for something like that. And the second solution is that you can use another kind of straw different from the plastic straw. For example, you can use the paper straw, the sugar cane straw or something like that. And the fourth one is the idea evaluation, which means that after develop all of the possible solutions and the environment bureau, they decided that to stop people from overusing plastic, they had to change people's mind about using plastic, and that the solution that change people ways of using plastic is the best solution than other ones. Yeah, and then we have just finished the creative behaviors. Then we come to the final one of the 3-stage model of creativity. This is outcomes. And as you can see that actually the novelty is different from the usefulness. For example, when you have the creative ideas, it doesn't mean that your creativity can be applied to the case. But somehow it is not good enough. For example, when you're doing the math problems, you come up with the solution, but somehow the solution is creative, but they do not correct. They will be violate some rules, for example, and so the teacher doesn't allow you to use that solution. So because you think of creative ideas, but it doesn't mean that your teacher will allow you to do that, to apply that solution or not. So sometimes novelty will not come to the useful ideas. And there was a saying that if your creative ideas will be the useless ideas if they are not used. Yeah, so that's it. So we have come to the end of this topic 6, perception and individual decision making. So I want to give you guys a summary of all of our chapters so that you can have the visualize about it, about what is perception, does it affect your decision making or not, and this is, if you improve your perception, does it make you make a better decision or not, and what you have to do to avoid a misperception or something like that. And in this I will list out the main points for you over that and some softwares that you could see it. And we have around 7 main points, but in this slide we have just four main points. The perception was perception. What is perception? What factors influence our perception in life? And the second one would be the attribution theory, about whether our individual behavior is internally or externally causes. Some errors you may find, some perception, for example, selective perception, halo effect, contrast effect, or something like that. And you can apply the attribution theory into many realistic cases, for example, interview or some evaluations, performance evaluation, for example. And the third one will be the link between perception and decision making. And the fourth one will be the decision in the organization. That is, so the next table we will find out the 3 final ones, the influence on decision making. And 6 will be the 3 ethical decisions and creativity that we just learned before. Yeah. So we have just gone through a little of the summaries, but I want you guys to know exactly what you are learning so that you can apply to life. So I will give you the questions so that you could practice your learning. And so let's check what we have learned today. First one, the first questions will be, in spite of the fact that stock terms say a rise change are essentially random. A large proportion of investors believe that they can predict the direction of the rise move. This is an example of A. Availability bias, 3. Randomness bias, or the other second one. So which one do you choose? The answer will be randomness error. Why? Because we have the word that the investor believe that they can predict the direction. So if you are believe that you can predict something, you can do something instead of based on our knowledge, we are somehow like stuck in the error of randomness. Yeah, so if you got a great questions, congratulations, and we will come to the next one. The question number 2, expectation can distort your perception in that you will see what you expect to see. True or false? Sure. Why? Because, for example, you are expect someone to, because, for example, you have a birthday present and you expect it to be something very expensive, but when it come out to be not expensive as you expected, you will start to like perceive it will be a very cheap one, for example, like that, and somehow it destroys your perception about something. Yeah, and it's true. So the last question will be the matching one. So I hope that you guys can match it because this is an example. For example, perception, I will give you the 2 columns. The first column will be the definitions. The second column will be the example of the color, the first column. And if you match it right, congratulations to you that you did a good job on learning this subject. Yeah, this is the answer. You can like reference for your reference. And this is also the class of our presentation today. And there are some reference that we have made during the class. So if you have anything not clear, first you have to like contact to we insert our links on the Google search it and start reading and start figure out. If you haven't clear, if after reading all the links that we have put to you and you haven't clear, you can connect us and we will willing to deal with your problems. And thank you. This is the class of our presentation today. Thank you for listening, and we also insert the email like group6.ob.ob so that you could contact us via the email so that if you have any questions. Yeah, I hope you guys have a good time listening. Yeah, thank you.